Okay. Week 3 we're heading into. You are watching the Let's Good Talking Broncos podcast. How many weeks do we go before we actually get a name? I say
14.
higher or lower on 15?
Oh, lower.
Lower.
Higher.
A couple seasons down the line, yeah.
We might go years. I think.
Years before we name this show. Look, we're here with the Let's Talk Broncos crew. All right, make sure you subscribe over to their YouTube channel. They got Buffs Pods, which co-streams here. They got Broncos videos. Where are you? What number? Did you guys break 700 yet?
Yes, sir. That's 7 right now.
Yeah, let's get to 800. Today we're going to be talking about the Broncos and the Dolphins because they play this week. And I'm going to pretend like last week didn't happen. I'm sure we've all gotten just sick of talking about the Fail Mary 2.0. We don't ever want to see it, hear it, smell it, nothing. So Broncos playing the Dolphins. Very good football team.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to try and figure out if they have any chance to beat the Dolphins, or as I'm calling them, the Broncos, the Florida Man Broncos, because they got Fangio. They got Mike McDaniel from Aurora, Colorado, grew up around the Broncos. They got Bradley Chubb. That's 3. I thought there was 4. That's
they
enough.
used to have
Call 'em
Patrick
Florida Man
Surtain
Broncos,
Sr.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
So we're going to get into that. I wanted to ask you guys. Okay, we're 0-2, okay? And I think the Broncos have a lot of problems. I don't know how quickly they're going to be fixed. Do any of you think that this is just like the learning curve of a new head coach where they're just going through like trying to figure each other out, find the pieces, learn who does what well, or in believing that, are we just trying to sell ourselves that there's potential here again when there's not?
I think for too long, Broncos country has wanted to make their problems, just one person. It's John Elway and his drafts. It's the Vic Fangio and not respecting the offense. It's Pat Shurmur. It's, or like a couple, 3 people. Like last year, it's Nathaniel Hackett. And once we get rid of Nathaniel Hackett and get Sean Payton in here, everything's going to be great. And now it's Vance Joseph. And I don't think it's that simple. I do think there are serious talent issues on the roster, and the offense is doing well. They're scoring touchdowns at a higher rate than anyone in the league. They're scoring points at a higher clip than anyone in the league on a per drive basis, that is. But they're still having to rely heavily on practice squad or guys that were practice squad receivers last year or undrafted free agents. Almost third round rookie receiver. They all look great. Don't get me wrong, but the fact that they're having to rely on those guys to step up is troubling. Everyone's upset with Damari Mathis, and it's like, oh, I hope our mid-third round rookie cornerback can save us. That's not a good spot to be in.
You watch it because Riley Moss will save us.
I like Riley Moss, but I'm just saying that's not a good spot to be in. Like I'd say the same thing about quarterback or left tackle, or it's troubling. And I don't know if the defense will improve, but the offense is playing so good right now, and there's still meat on the bone, that I think this team can at least be decent, because offense is more important than defense.
Yeah, Brandon, your initial question was just kind of like, are the Broncos going to figure this out? And I think that kind of they will, but it's not going to be as soon as people think, to Zach's point. Are the Broncos evaluating players this year? Yes, they most definitely are. A lot of this team, though, is going to be flipped next year. I really do think so. I think that they're looking at who should be around. I think it was always kind of rich to be thinking that this defense would be the same as it was last year. I think when you're looking at Broncos defensive coordinators through the years, we've gotten really lucky with Wade Phillips, Vic Fangio, Evero, and now I think we're all kind of coming back to earth and seeing like okay, is this what the other teams are dealing with out here? Like, you're not just like hiding everything for us? No, we're not. Vance Joseph, his defense just isn't very talented. We don't have a defensive coordinator that in place to stop anything. like that's kind of the case right now. So are they going to figure it out? Hopefully. This year, I'd say probably not.
I think one interesting thing about the game last week is everybody was sort of clamoring to, they're losing ugly. And everyone's like, if we're going to lose, let's just like lose in exciting fashion. And I'm not sure it's much better. No. I think it really sucked. I want to go back to losing like 16-17. That was a heartbreaker, and I can't take that anymore.
Next to Super Bowl 48 and the Ravens playoff loss, like that's the worst loss I remember.
Pretty bad. Now.
I think that there is at least a sense of optimism, though, when you lose 2 games for a total summation of 3 points. I think you have to start thinking, okay, things are clicking. But the boys have made a really great point over on Let's Talk Broncos that the defense maybe isn't filled with the talent needed in order to really carry the team any longer. And I think that's the frustrating part for Broncos country. An improvement over last year doesn't mean anything to me. And I think this is the most confusing season that I've been a part of as far as the Broncos are concerned, because I don't know exactly what the root of the cause of the issue is, other than knowing it's really frustrating. And after almost nearly a decade of all of this, I'm wondering, when does it turn around? What we can probably say is true is that Russell Wilson wasn't the answer. Sean Payton is not the answer. And that we're probably looking at a complete overhaul, like Joey already said. So interesting. I'm coming to terms with it. But if you listen to Let's Talk Broncos before this combination of minds, you know that we told you to temper your expectations, Broncos country. So here it is, and we're going for it. But if the team starts 0-3 this season, we got bigger issues on our hands.
Yeah, then we're starting to dream. That's the real problem. We're starting to dream about Caleb Williams, and that is a dangerous path for us to go down. And the Dolphins currently are like, they're the opposite of the Broncos in terms of the way they've been constructed, right? Like they've went out and grabbed their playmakers. They went all in for Tyreek Hill in a way where it's paid off exactly like you would want it to if you're a Dolphins fan. They got Vic Fangio over the Broncos, who were interested in Fangio. I don't know if he was actually ever considering coming back. Vance Joseph has to be the best interviewer and nicest guy on earth because like his defenses have never been that good. Like he's had average defenses, but they've never been that good. And to consider him over, I think they could have went out and got Wade Phillips back. Like if you're just going to go back to the well with other guys who have worked here, if you're talking to Fangio, why not talk to Wade Phillips? I think you might make the jump out of the XFL and come join them. Like, I don't know. But the Dolphins are a team to me who were a mess, like a mess, because they fired Brian Flores, turned into a lawsuit. They settled for Mike McDaniel. That worked out. And then they went in and they got playmakers. And I think when you see Waddle and Tyreek Hill go off, like it shows you how important those guys are. And what sucks is we had that last week. I said, we're not going to talk about last week. We had it. But the typical thing with the Broncos over the last couple of years, it's never a full, complete game, right? That was almost 2 full quarters. They did nothing in the third quarter, and then a couple field goals in the fourth, and then we get a miracle at the end. So it feels close because like if they just have the complete game with all of those guys emerging, stepping up, then maybe they're really good. But we've said that to ourselves. We've said it to ourselves so many times now. I don't even want to think it. So we're going to get into this Dolphins and Broncos match. We're not going to like do it like a matchup. We're going to pose some questions, right, Bree? Tell them what we're going to do.
We are. We're going to pose some questions.
We're going to pose them.
We're going to pose some questions to the viewers at home. If you want to chime in, go ahead and do so. But we've all kind of come up with what is more likely. We're going to give 2 scenarios, and then we're going to react to those. Basically a preview for a game, but we're not going to be boring about it. I'm going to go first for y'all because I think this is a must-win game for the Broncos. Dolphins obviously have a chance to go 3-0, or the Broncos go 0-3. The Broncos have met the Dolphins 20 times in the past, and the Dolphins have a better record here. Not shockingly, I believe the Broncos have dropped all but 1 game when they play in Miami. Right now, you've got 9 teams battling out the week to improve to 3-0, which is a solid indicator of whether or not a team makes the playoffs. And then conversely, 99 teams in the past 20 years have gone 0-3, and only 2 were able to make it to the playoffs, including the 2018 Texans. Guys, it's pivotal. 9 teams are currently 0-2. They're battling it out in week 3. The Broncos being one of them. Which one is more likely? Dolphins 3-0, Broncos 0-3.
Dolphins 3-0.
Yeah.
Dolphins
I do
3-0.
not have any good feelings about this game.
It's not
I'm
a trap
done.
game? No optimism. All right.
I do think like you could poke some holes in what the Dolphins have done so far. The Patriots game was pretty close. It came like that call at the very end was it had a huge impact factor on how that game ended. The Chargers game was also very close, and the Chargers look like one of the worst coached teams in the NFL. They turn around and lose to the Titans. I believe that was in LA, though I might maybe misremembering. So and the Dolphins barely won that game. Their defense is one of the lesser defenses in the NFL. For as good as the Dolphins offense is, there's cases that the Broncos are at least in that same tier as them so far. It hasn't been as flashy, but in terms of just per drive consistency, the Dolphins don't match up well for what the Broncos want to do, in the sense of like styles make fights. The Broncos want to punch you in the mouth. And right now the Dolphins are allowing the highest success rate on running plays. 61% of opponents' running plays are successful. And second worst run defense overall in terms of EPA per play against the run. I think there's a window there. It is, to me, much more likely that the Dolphins win this game than that the Broncos do.
Yeah. I mean, Zach, you know where they do match up well, though? Their offense versus our defense. That's where the Dolphins match up really good. When you talk about Tyreek Hill, right? Like, we all know about Tyreek Hill. Mike McDaniel comes from the Kyle Shanahan tree. He's amazing. Tua is lighting it up. We got to hope that Jalen Waddle's not playing, because
he's in concussion protocol, right?
Yeah, and he wasn't out there today. So that's news. Hopefully, I don't know. Like, for the Broncos' sake, I hope he doesn't play, because I think our defense is going to get cooked in this game. Either way, but especially if he's playing. Damari Mathis has had such a tough season so far. Such a tough season in both games. He's going to have to cover one of those guys.
Well, with the news of Justin Simmons being sidelined today during practice, that's not good news either for the secondary.
Oh, just another safety injury? No, we got.
I think
do we have any safeties?
Kareem Jackson? There's going to be no suspension there, right?
No suspension.
Okay, so K.
Not that
Jackson's
we've
going to
heard
be
yet.
on the field the whole time.
Kind of shocking.
So
I think if he's out, it would be like just JL Skinner and Kareem Jackson, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
If Simmons is
so.
out, yeah. I guess. Okay, so there is
Or
a
is
little bit of hope.
back there again.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of hope, because Waddle is in concussion protocol, and I think they also had to put Braxton Berrios on it. So their receiver depth right now is dwindling a little bit.
They've got former Bronco River Craycraft. I think that's the fourth guy that we were thinking of.
Oh, Craycraft.
Yeah.
You're right.
He's kind of a guy for them.
He
shows up every once in a while.
Because I'm just trying to find their fucking depth chart.
Why is nobody
here.
mentioning Tyreek Hill? I think like that's the big
panic
button.
That's a given, right?
I'm sorry.
the reason with Tyreek Hill, like, you could argue maybe there's a little bit of, if it's just Tyreek Hill out there and it's Pat Surtain with him, I don't think Pat wins every matchup, but he can slow him down.
Then you got to stop Mostert. You got a running back in there you got to worry about too. So I don't know. I'm a little cautious.
I said I have no hope, but injuries could be our friend there. That's all I'm saying.
That quick motion thing that the Dolphins do.
Yeah.
They ran it a ton against the Patriots. Does anybody think that Vance Joseph is going to come up with any sort of answer for that?
No, Damari Mathis will be covering Tyreek Hill next week.
Yeah, I was going to say, you'll want Pat Surtain on Tyreek Hill every play, but it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, Mike McDaniel will find a way. Mike McDaniel will find a way for Patrick Surtain to be covering River Craycraft.
And not just that, but
Tyreek Hill. So
I want the PFF stat. Pat Surtain allowed 0 catches to River Craycraft.
Gonna lock him down.
it's not just, I think, and yeah, they're going to get they're going to use their mismatches. They're not going to put Tyreek Hill on Patrick Surtain the whole game. But even when that matchup is there, Mike McDaniel's done a really good job this season with pre-snap motions and whatnot, getting his receivers free releases, and it is wrecking people. It's why the Dolphins have been so good. Yeah. So this is going to be a very, very tough matchup for Surtain and the rest of the Broncos secondary.
I'm going to push back on your stats about the Dolphins run defense just a smidge, Zach, because I think they were so bad against the Chargers that it carried over statistically into the Patriots game, because I thought they did a pretty decent job keeping the Pats run game like at bay. Like, I think less than 100 yards total between like Stevenson and, I mean, Zeke Elliott's not going to do anything, mostly just Stevenson. But so I think like their defense is getting a little bit better. And I think with Vic Fangio by week 3, they are going to be better there. And here's one of our higher, lower things. Higher or lower, Bradley Chubb, 2 sacks. 2 sacks in this game. This is his revenge game. Remember, you got to always
lower. Have to. So
1.5. Then I say, right? Is it 1.5?
Higher.
Yeah.
He had
lower.
1 last week. He has 1 on the season.
Lower.
I'm going lower as well.
Ooh.
He's been very ineffective since getting to Miami. Outside of his rookie year, he hasn't been a really big sack guy in general. And even when you look at his rookie year, it was pretty heavily luck based. That was kind of the big knock on him. Yeah, he's had 3.5 sacks since joining the Miami Dolphins. I don't think he gets 2 in a single game.
Now, Zach, I do think that he was more effective with Fangio than he was last year with Miami. I thought Miami last year was his worst season I saw. After he was traded there, he fell off a cliff, and he was having a very productive year with the Broncos up until he got traded. So there is potential that, Vic Fangio brings the best out of Bradley Chubb this season, but I'm still going lower because 2 is a lot.
Vic Fangio and Bradley Chubb against the Broncos' current offensive line. I mean, 2 could happen. I'm just going to throw it out there.
I think 0 sacks for Chubb, 4 or 5 for Van Ginkel. I'm worried about Van Ginkel. I got a problem.
He was a problem. Also, higher or lower on the number of kidney stones Vic Fangio passes in this game?
How many?
Any number. You can pick higher or lower of any number of your choosing.
I think he's going to be passing some. I think it's 2, 3. Like, I think he's going to be very pained by. I think Sean Payton and the Broncos offense are going to have a good game this week.
Lucky number 16. I'm picking it because I hate the number.
16 kidney stones.
You said any number.
Yeah. All right, you guys can give some real ones now. Go
here. I got one. Going to what I just said about the offense having a big day. What's more likely? That Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos offense unfurl a 35-point carpet bomb on the Miami area that has Vic Fangio contemplating retirement and soothing himself with a plate of homemade pasta, or that the Miami Dolphins drop 45 points and absolutely scorch a Broncos defense that has been full of holes all season long already, or through the first 2 weeks of the season. And we see Sean Payton berating Vance Joseph or hear reports of it or something. What's more likely there?
Well, I mean, Sam Howell put 35 up against us. I'm gonna take that one because
he is good.
The Dolphins, they're a better offense, and what's 10 more points for the Dolphins than Sam Howell and the Commanders? So I'm definitely, I would say that's more likely, Zach. Then I think that one's the most likely scenario if I had to pick out of those.
If I knew Waddle was playing, I would say the Dolphins scoring all the points.
Yeah.
I feel like 45 is just kind of unlikely because I think the Broncos will try to slow it down a little bit. But I don't see us getting to 35 either. How about neither of these happen. Zero chance.
That's not the game. What's more likely?
All right, I'll say Denver scores 35 and loses 38-35.
I'll take it. What I'll say to counter Joey, the Broncos just put up 33 points against a top 10 defense in the NFL so far through 2 weeks. The Dolphins are nowhere near that so far. I think 2 more points against that opponent is very possible. And there was meat left on the bone.
I think they're both likely. I don't know if the Broncos are going to be able to slow down the Dolphins. Not from what we've seen dealing with injuries. A couple of your star players out and or questionable. I could see the Dolphins easily scoring the 45 points. I'm going to say that one is more likely because I think the Broncos would somehow score 34 just to spite us all.
All right, I'm against you guys. I think the Broncos score 35 between those two options. I think. Yeah, I don't think either team gets there, but I do think the Broncos scoring 35 is more likely. I'm buying stock in this offense.
All right. Joey, what's yours?
Okay, so we had 2 guys, I think, score both their first NFL touchdowns last week, right? And I want to know if a touchdown streak could start between them. Which one's more likely between Brandon Johnson or Jaleel McLaughlin to score a touchdown? Maybe a little streak going there after this next week. Which one is more likely to score a touchdown?
Brandon Johnson.
Brandon Johnson? He's probably going to get more opportunity.
Because Jaleel will get 1 carry again for no reason.
Lucky.
That's the thing.
I
do
you
like
scored
that
on
little goal
one
line.
try. How about we never give you the ball back? I'm the best
I do love the little
coach
goal line
ever.
package they add for Jaleel McLaughlin. I think that's really fun. You get like all your big heavy guys out there, and then you have your shifty tailback and have him beat him to the edge because the defense has to match your heavy person. I think that's really fun. But yeah, ultimately Brandon Johnson. I mean, I think he's a really good receiver. I mean, not really good, but underrated still. I think like he will hang around in the league for a good bit. I think there is real talent there, and it's the reason he's managed to hang on. He was an undrafted free agent last year. The coaching staff that signed him immediately got ousted. He played a little in the preseason and then had an injury that took him out for the rest of the year. He was just a practice squad guy, and Sean Payton came in and retained him and is now featuring him in the offense. I think that's a testament to the player he is.
Target the hot hand. I believe he had 2 touchdowns last week, right, Joey?
Jaleel?
Yeah, because Hail Mary.
Johnson.
Brandon Johnson.
Johnson, yeah.
So, I mean, even though that was a freak play, I say why not? Go again. Why not?
Yeah.
It's a freak play, but it's also like incredible concentration too. Like I don't want to just chalk it up to a fluke. Like that was a really nice play by him.
Yeah. I'm excited for more Brandon Johnson as well, guys. He looks like a pretty good football player out there. Like Zach said earlier, I mean, we're really down in assets, so maybe he's out there for that reason. But hey, if you find a diamond in the rough there, Brandon Johnson is a guy that I think could play. Nathaniel Hackett even really liked Brandon Johnson in the offseason before he got injured. He was a guy that climbed up the depth chart before he got hurt, and then completely new coach. We know Sean Payton and Nathaniel Hackett don't even like each other. What does he do? Climb up to the top of the depth chart again. So just a guy to keep an eye on. Maybe he's a starter.
Yeah, absolutely. Will, throwing it over to you, my man. What you got here? What's more likely?
All right. This is sort of a kind of a long-term hypothetical. So this is a little pessimistic, a little doom and gloom, but do the Broncos finish last in the NFL and secure the first pick in the 2024 NFL draft?
I thought you said it was doom and gloom. This sounds sunny. I'm excited. Caleb Williams in Denver. Let's go.
Maybe. Well, here's the other part of my hypothetical.
Can Caleb Williams teach Damari Mathis to cover?
You took it from me. How'd you know? This might be pandering a little bit to you guys, but is it more likely that 10 days from now, Shedeur Sanders outduels Caleb Williams and becomes the front runner for the number 1 pick? Which is more likely?
Ooh, that's my favorite one yet. Well,
Broncos get the first pick or Shedeur Sanders becomes the first pick?
Broncos first pick.
I think Broncos first pick. I think Caleb Williams is so special. It's going to be very tough to catch him. Now, just Heisman, the Heisman voters don't like going back to back. I think, if the Buffs don't win in Oregon, they come back home and maybe they can pull an upset against USC. I don't know. It's close for me, but I'll go with Broncos winding up with the number 1.
Yeah, the Broncos are 0-2. I just that's the reason they're really struggling out here. So I'm going to go with that one. But man, do I think there's a good shot Shedeur goes back to school. I think that's another chance there. But here's my thing: if the Broncos draft Shedeur, maybe that makes Deion stay in the state of Colorado. I don't know. Maybe we can make something happen. Buffs Broncos. That would be a beautiful thing.
You're hitting all the fan notes over here. I'm super excited about the proposition of Shedeur Sanders coming to the Broncos. Although, would you wish that on somebody so talented? I'm kidding. I'm not being pessimistic. I'm just a little sad right now. But the thing is that I think the Broncos could very well, maybe end up with the worst pick. That seems pretty likely. I like Zach's point there about Caleb Williams being that special, but Shedeur Sanders has something really just innate about his skill set and who he is as a person and a player. You see it come out in these crazy fashions where you're just like, where did he get that from? Specifically when Travis Hunter was hit on that really dirty play, he made it known to that other team that if you were going to mess with him, you're going to mess with Shedeur Sanders. And so I don't know, he's special. I got biases. I don't care what happens, success all around, but the Broncos probably won't find it this week. So I'm just down bad, man. Probably Broncos take last place in the NFL.
Interesting. I guess I don't know enough about college football, the Heisman, and how everything actually works there, because I think the Buffs are about to their flaws are about to be exposed by Oregon and USC, and the concerns I have watching the Colorado Buffs, like these 3 games have been fun, but the fact that they struggled as much as they did against CSU is a real problem, and their problem on offense is their offensive line, in addition to not getting a run game going. And those things I think are going to haunt them when they play better teams, as well as I don't think their defense is consistently very good either. And now they're going to be without Travis Hunter in these games, right?
Yes.
So just from a football perspective, I don't like their chances in the next 2 games. I don't like Sanders' chances of actually getting to a Heisman because of the offensive line. But is it in college football, is there a better chance for him to climb into that conversation if all of that stuff is a little bit of a mess and he's still putting up numbers? Like, does that factor into it? Because I think he throws like an NFL quarterback. I think he makes decisions like an NFL quarterback. And I think I've been more than anyone outside of Travis Hunter playing a million snaps every game. I've been most impressed with him because I had no opinion of Sanders going into the season, none. And then I was like, oh shit, he's a pretty good quarterback. But I don't know if he doesn't have an offensive line to protect him. If that's my concern, he's going to get hurt at some point because of that, because he takes a lot of hits. But if everything's kind of a disaster and CU's playing maybe from behind in some of these games and they're getting those big plays, which I think they will, does that help or hurt his case? And I'm trying to help my friend maybe make a bet on it or not. So
I think it hurts it only because in the college football playoff era, it's really hard to win a Heisman unless you're one of those elite teams. So I think there's an opportunity if the Buffs can split USC or Oregon, but that offensive line and the issues they do have obviously doesn't help them win those games. Those are issues. So I think it hurts it in that way. Does it help in the way that so much of this Heisman stuff is just plays that look cool and stuff like that too. The highlight reel has to be nice. So, so in that case, probably, yeah. And Shedeur's having highlights. He's having.
It's such a narrative award, the Heisman too, that it doesn't even matter that they were down to CSU late in that game. The voters, if they were even awake at that time of night, which they most likely were not, they'll just look at that 98-yard drive and be like, that's what a Heisman looks like.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
care
and
that
that's
we're playing
impressive.
a bad Mountain West team.
Yeah. And even though they struggled, to your point, they struggled against CSU. Oregon has played one real opponent this year, and they struggled a good bit in that game. It came right down to the wire against a bad Texas Tech team. So I'm taking Oregon this week, but I think CU covers. I think people have been wrong about CU every single week of the season so far, including last week. Maybe we don't have this team fully figured out yet. That's all.
No, we don't. And I think like Dion said that. He's like, this team's not there yet. And it's not. It's so hard for me because I don't watch enough college football. And when I do watch it, I'm just like, there are very talented players, and then there's a lot of bad football players.
Yeah.
When I watch college football compared to watching the NFL and compared to watching like the XFL and USFL, people are like, the spring leagues, it's like a down tick in talent, but I would take, in terms of like fundamental football, the spring football leagues over college football. And watching CU these last 3 weeks, it drives me a little bit nuts. I'm like, this is like the mistakes guys make. I think that's why some people really like college football.
Yeah.
For me, it's just like, I don't know. I can't get a good read on a football team, I feel like.
It is tough. It's like ever changing week to week too, especially when you have a CU team with 80 new players in it.
Right.
Like, they definitely haven't figured things out. For sure have not figured everything out.
With the worst roster. You have to remember that, Joe. You got to include that in your narrative.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. All right. Back to
Perna,
the
it's
Dolphins and Broncos, who are
Perna,
not
it's your turn. What's
Oh,
your
I got another one?
Oh wait, did you
No, I
Yeah.
gave shit ones.
No. We have more if you'd like.
Yeah. Did Joey go?
Give me one, Joey.
Joey did go.
I can
Yeah.
go.
Oh,
Joey
I
did
mean,
go.
I-
Who
I
just
can-
went? I'm sorry, Joey.
Guys,
I've got others.
here, wait, I'll go because I started. This is my fault. As the host, I fucked up. Let's go. Total game points, 70 points in the game. Or Tua throws for a career high yards, which 469 is his highest so far. So that means he'd have to throw for 470.
Ooh, we'll give you the answer right after I shout out our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Link in the description, guys. I believe Tua was the bonus pick last week for their $100,000 Sunday. So sign up with Underdog, use our code Let's Ride, and play in their pick'em games this week with their featured player. So you make a set of picks with the featured player. It was Tua last week. I don't know who it is this week yet. And even if you don't win that higher or lower in your pick'ems, you don't get them all, you're still qualified to win the $100,000 on Sunday. I have yet to win a set of pick'ems, and I can't figure it out. So I'm sticking to my fantasy drafts on Underdog because I tend to do better on those. My point is, find your strength. Find your strength. Pick'ems, fantasy, whatever it is, whatever sport. If you're going to do it with Underdog. They'll match your first deposit up to $100, but only with our code Let's Freaking Ride. It's just Let Rides. Don't do the middle part. Zach, what do you got? What was the question? 70 total points?
70 total
70
points or
points.
470 yards for Tua.
This is really tough.
He just
I
came
guess
off
I'll
a
go
big game
points.
against the Chargers.
I'll go points because I think it's going to be pretty high scoring for both teams. It's tempting to go Tua just because I do think this Dolphins passing game is going to slice up the Broncos secondary like crazy. But you also need a fast-paced game for that to happen. I think the Broncos are going to try and milk the clock, run the ball hard. But I don't think there's going to be many stops in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the games where it's like no punts this game. But Broncos still lose because maybe they have an interception or something.
Yeah, I think I'm also picking points. Just because you have two good offenses playing each other, Tua's only done this once in his entire career. Teams have scored over 70 before. So I'm going to go that way. You have two really good offenses. If it starts to become a shootout, to Zach's point, the Broncos probably will be running the ball. It's more likely though, so I'm going points. I don't think either will happen though.
Yeah, I think Tua getting to 469, 470 like that would necessitate probably the Dolphins trailing in this game quite a bit, sort of like week 1 against the Chargers. And I don't see that happening, unfortunately.
Ooh, I think I could see Tua getting to 460 before the points. I mean, god dang, this Jalen Waddle thing.
I know that's what
it really F's me here. But my reason being the Dolphins and their run game, it's kind of like a mystery, right? And I could see them running it like 3 times in this game. And the rest are just passes. And even last week, they ran better against the Patriots, but one of those was like a 50 or 60-yard run from Raheem Mostert, right? And that came late in the fourth quarter. You take that out of there, the run game wasn't what it looks like. So as a like schematically, I could just see Mike McDaniel saying we got 3 handoffs, the rest are going to be deep passes and these screens or whatever. And we know the Broncos do not really defend the screen well. So I'll take the yards there. The other thing I'm really curious about is the Broncos pass rush, which looked a lot better against the Commanders, right? And Nick Bonito, I think, looked pretty good and had I forget what the stat was, one of the bullshit pass rush stats about him being good that I liked. He was better, so it gets me excited about it. Tua's a hard quarterback to get to because he gets rid of the ball quickly. The Dolphins line could be getting better this week with Terran Armstead coming back, right? So I think we're going to get a better gauge of where the Broncos are as a pass rushing team in this game. My fear is it's still not good. I think the Commanders have a bad offensive line, and they have a young quarterback who holds onto the ball a lot longer than Tua is going to. And if the pass rush isn't there, I think that also leans towards a lot of passing yards for Tua. So I don't know.
All right. Well,
yeah, I think it's going to be really hard for the Broncos to get any sacks in this game. Tua has this crazy stat. I think the only other person to do it is Tom Brady, his second to last year with the Bucs, where he has the highest average depth of target. So he's throwing the ball deeper than anyone else. And he also has the lowest time to throw. So he's getting rid of the ball faster than anyone else. And those things are so incongruent. It should not be happening in that way.
Right.
But this Dolphins offense is special.
Yeah, when you got a lot of speed on the outside, when you got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, that's the only way that's possible. Or if you have Randy Moss. I think that's the only 2 ways.
which, Tom Brady did for a while. So that's why he was so good at it. Zach, do you have an extra one? Sorry, Perna. I know I saw your eye twitch when I mentioned the Brady. So
Yeah, thank you. He shall not be named here.
I'll follow kind of Joey here. He highlighted some players that have already scored touchdowns, maybe surprisingly, in Jaleel McLaughlin and Brandon Johnson. How about some players that haven't scored touchdowns surprisingly? What's more likely? Jerry Jeudy gets his first touchdown of the season, or Javonte Williams gets his first touchdown of the season?
Ooh.
Javonte for me. Javonte. I think that's more likely. Yeah, when you're in the red zone, I think the Broncos want to run the football, and Javonte Williams should be getting those carries. I mean, Jaleel McLaughlin did last week, which was, to Zach's point, it was a fun play, but also I don't see that happening a lot. I think Javonte is going to be in there most of the time, and I just think it's more likely he's going to get more opportunities to touch the football than Jerry Jeudy will. So Javonte Williams for me.
I don't know how healthy Jeudy is yet. I know he played, but hamstrings do take a while. And I think that's why he didn't have like a breakout game. We were happy to get him back, but I think he's just still trying to get right. So I'm going to agree with Joey and say Javonte, because I'm just not sure about Judy's health yet.
There was a little bit of shakiness with Russ's targets to Jeudy, and so that's why I'm going to go with Javonte Williams if they do plan to run the ball more. Maybe that's what he was like, a repellent. It was magnetic. It was going in the reverse direction. It was a little bit behind him. I don't trust the connection right now. I think because Judy's been out for so long, that it's just sort of not gelling. Hopefully that's gotten better. Could be proven very wrong. I'll eat the crow live here on That's Good Talk Broncos. Don't know the name of the show still. But yeah, I think Javonte Williams is due one. It's time. He's back. He's running better than ever. And I just think that that's the plan against this Miami Dolphins. So, yeah, I'm going to go Javonte Williams.
I think I like Judy to get in the end zone. I think he'll be, and like you said, Brandon, like I don't think he's fully healthy. I don't think Javonte Williams is fully healthy either.
Fair.
And that's still affecting him to some extent. But I think they're going to make like a clear emphasis to get him the ball a little bit more this week. And he's just kind of one of those guys, like he's one of those wide receivers that you want to keep happy. And like, you don't want him to like go get like, 3 targets, 1 reception for 8 yards and then get mad on Twitter later. And
tweet the eyes emoji.
Yeah. The classic wide receiver archetype. So I think they make a concerted effort to get him the ball and, he shakes a tackle and scores a touchdown this week. But, I could see Javonte getting into the end zone too. I just think Judy's probably a better bet for me.
I honestly feel like Judy's going to be a Dolphin by the time the game's over.
He would be so good in that offense.
I know. That
would
Just
be
mid-game.
terrifying.
Yep.
Like maybe like first part of the third quarter. Just
like Judy switched teams at halftime. We worked the contract out.
Like Vontae Davis.
I don't even think it'll be official. I think it'll just be like they'll be looking for Judy in the locker room at halftime, and then he's going to come out of the Dolphins locker room wearing a Dolphins jersey.
Yeah.
See if anybody notices, which they probably won't.
Number 55 at wide receiver for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Man, that would upgrade River Craycraft.
We get Craycraft back.
Yeah, fair trade.
Aren't they both number 10? That would work.
Already kills 10, isn't he?
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah,
that was stupid.
It's haunted my dreams for a while. So, all right, do we do it? Do we do a pod?
I think we did.
That'll do it. Yeah.
41 minutes.
Good night.
And John Elway plays his entire career without an ACL.
And good luck. Don't forget to subscribe to Let's Talk Broncos.